As I said earlier, we kick off the month of May, and our theme for this month is good to great to grand. And it's a time to talk about diving into self-discovery or self-actualization and our ongoing intention to have a grand rising throughout 2024. Our whole theme for the year is a grand rising. So I think all of us are coming to spirituality, coming to this community with the hope that connecting with a power bigger than ourselves will make our lives better. Am I right? That's what we're here for, right? We're here to make our lives better. We hope that hanging out in a community with all these happy people that I referenced earlier will somehow rub off on us, and we will feel better about our lives. And you know what? I think it kind of works that way, actually. Just by being in the presence of intentional positivity and generosity and kindness, that is transformational, especially if you're coming from a place where day to day you're hanging out with critical or cynical or negative people. So how many of you experienced kind of a quick uptick in your level of life satisfaction after being with us just for a little bit? Right? It works. You see, I told you, it works. It's kind of like moving the needle from mediocre to good, right? Life is good. Some of us even wear t-shirts. Anybody have a life is good t-shirt on today? Usually somebody does. Oh, Glenda has a life is good t-shirt right front and center, you know. That life is good, little dogs and sunsets and all of that kind of stuff. And I would guess most of you would say, you know, my life is good. My life is good. You know, you're here on a spiritual path with something meaningful, good, right? But we're committed. We're committed to evolving and healing and learning and growing. And that is what I want to talk about today. How do we move from good to great in our personal experience of life? And how does being on a spiritual path support us in moving from good to great? But are you ready? Are you ready? Rumi, the Sufi mystic poet from centuries ago, asked this very question. He said, and you, will you begin that long journey into yourself? That's the question today. Are you ready to begin? I know a lot of you began this a long time ago. So are you ready to continue that long journey into yourself? And I've called my lesson today the OCD dance. Now, you might think I'm going to talk about obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. But those letters were just used to kind of get you wondering, what the heck is she going to talk about today? Right. I'm using the letters OCD to stand for observe, curiosity, observation, curiosity, and discovery. Because I believe that those three words kind of point us in the direction of improving our lives. And I'm going to give you an overview of these three steps, and I'm going to be sharing a personal experience of my own spiritual life work as we go along. So if I were to summarize this whole philosophy, what was Ernest Holmes about? What are we talking about in a grand way? I would use a phrase something like, our outer life is a reflection of our inner life. Or I would say, what you think about, you bring about. Or life is a journey from fear to love, from head to heart. Or until you get all that human junk out of the way, your soul can't be fully front and center. So you could kind of summarize it like that. And we're here to look at our inner life, what we think about, what we're afraid of, how our human self is kind of junking up our journey. Because we're all about uncovering our true selves, our souls, our inner love and light, our grandness. One day at a time, one thought at a time. That's what we're here for. And the most beautiful thing is we are encircled by a community of people who see our grandness. We're all doing the same thing. We're loving each other, cheering each other on, seeing each other's inner light. So if not now, when? When are you going to do this journey into yourself, if not now, when you're surrounded by these beautiful people? So I want to look at what our founder, Ernest Holmes, had to say about this. He said, the road to self-discovery often calls for clearing away of the underbrush of ignorance, fear, superstition, and a sense of isolation which has made us feel that we were unworthy, unheld, and lost. In the divine providence of good, salvation is unnecessary, but self-discovery is essential. So see, Ernest Holmes started writing this philosophy in the Christian United States. It was over on the West Coast, but everybody was pretty much Christian, feeling like salvation was the ticket. And what he's saying is salvation's not necessary, but self-discovery, working on yourself, is necessary. He actually said the word essential. Self-discovery is essential, and I agree. Because this talk is about making a commitment to figure yourself out. This talk is about getting rid of any sense of what he called unworthiness and being unheld. That word just got my soul. An unheld and lostness that we may be experiencing. And I'm sure each one of us can identify some part of our life that we'd like to move the needle on, from good to great to grand, right? I'm sure there are people right here in the room this morning that are carrying something heavy. Maybe it's your career, or maybe it's a specific relationship, or maybe it's your health, or maybe it's your finances, or maybe we know we have a habit that keeps undermining us from having our best life. Something we want to move from bad to just okay, or from okay to good to great to grand, right? We'll get to the grand part in a minute, right? So how do we move that needle and improve that thing in our lives? I'm sure each one of you can think of a thing. So first take that area of your life and observe it. The first step in improving anything is to wake up and realize where you are, right? Where are you now? Where are you starting? It doesn't have to be your destination, but it does have to be your starting point. Where are you? That's the observe part. We've got to take some time to observe our thoughts, our words, our choices, our beliefs, our actions about that area of our life, because they reveal our current state of believing and thinking and being. Do y'all know Amit Ray? He's a spiritual master. He's known as a spiritual master. He's known for his teachings on meditation and yoga and peace and compassion. In other words, he spent his whole life, entire life, helping people reach a greater state of inner peace. And he says this: self-observation is the first step of inner unfolding. Now, I'm not asking you to judge yourself or get down on yourself. No, I'm just asking you to observe. Observe. What are you doing or not doing to live your best life in that area you're thinking about? What is working and what is not? What peanut butter and jelly sandwiches do you keep making in that area of your life? I loved your reading. It was great. But to use Ernest Holmes' words, can you see any underbrush of fear that needs to be cleared away? Do you notice other people around you who seem to have that part of their life figured out while you seem to flounder in uncertainty? Observation is a simple but transformative practice because it is the way to self-actualization. Because by observing ourselves without judgment, we cultivate self-awareness and we develop a greater understanding of our thoughts and our emotions and our patterns of behavior. When we look within, through keen observation, we become more aware of the intricacies of our inner landscape. We see those beliefs, those hidden fears, desires that stop us in our tracks. So honest and clear observation takes courage, doesn't it? It takes courage. It takes courage to look in the mirror and to admit to yourself that you've hit a dead end, that you keep making the same lunch every time. You've hit that dead end, and admit that you need to turn around and figure out a new path. If you're going to get to grandness, you've got to go a different way. But until you accept that a turnaround is necessary, you're stuck. So I want to share something that I had to stop and observe about myself early in my spiritual walk. You know, I was sitting in spirituality classes just like y'all, beginner classes, trying to figure it out. And I was hearing about love and forgiveness and seeing the God in everyone, the whole face of God thing. And I was just baffled. I was baffled. I had been hurt by so many people and betrayed, and I felt very stuck in anger and judgment, right? And on the surface, I was nice. I was so nice. I was so nice. By all appearances, I was doing fine. I was accepting everyone, but deep inside, it felt different. It felt different. I felt like a fraud saying life is good. I don't even think I would have worn a t-shirt, right? All is well. Because I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it, especially when it came to most people around me. And I shared my cynicism with one of my early teachers. I admitted that I didn't think people were doing the best they could. You know, people are doing the best they can. BS. I couldn't see the face of God in the people that I knew were out to hurt me, right? So just like I'm sharing today, I was encouraged to observe my stuff. My teacher asked me to journal. Man, that's a sucky assignment, right? I had to journal, right? And it's just a perfect way of observing yourself, you know? Observe my deepest and truest feelings about humanity. He wanted me to explore the thoughts I was holding. You know, listen to my external conversations and then compare it to my inner dialogue. He didn't want me to change anything at first. He just wanted me to get aware, observe. So write down my fears, what I was angry about, all that stuff. And to be honest, it was hard because it felt so not spiritual. It felt like I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing, right? But I wanted to feel the happiness and the connection that other people were feeling in this community that I was in. And I wanted to heal so badly. I always say that if they had told me to stand on my head every Saturday morning for an hour, I would have tried to do it. Might have broken something else, but I would have tried because I wanted to heal. So I started writing down my feelings. And I realized that I thought there was a right way of doing everything, and I knew what that right way was, and everybody else was just clueless, right? Most people weren't doing things the right way. Those people were hurtful, that most relationships were disappointment and unreliable. I observed that I felt folks were dishonest and untrustworthy. These kinds of thoughts and beliefs just kept piling up as I wrote, and I saw how these thoughts showed up at my work, in my family, with my neighbors, with friends, with the general public. I was very defensive and protective. Basically, I realized that I felt separate from everybody else. I felt like I was on this path alone. I was on my own. I was living from a fear and judgment mentality. And I was being exposed to spiritual concepts, but I had a lot of resistance to this idea of oneness, this oneness stuff and unity. All of that self-observation showed me plainly that I didn't get it. And I knew where I was starting from, for sure. It was a painful, painful place, an angry, lonely, judgmental, cynical place. Please tell me I'm not alone. Can y'all relate? Okay, good. Right. So, once I know how things are right now, the second step is to get curious. So once you've observed, then get curious. And curiosity is that catalyst for growth and expansion. Because as we pay close attention to ourselves, curiosity is that spark of interest. Like, maybe I could change something. Maybe I could get a greater understanding. What curiosity does, it keeps nudging and sometimes pushing us beyond our comfort zone. I'm curious. So if we can begin to approach life from this curious and open mindset, we invite new experiences, new ideas, new perspectives into our existence. And it is in this step that we can question and explore and find meaning. It takes sincere curiosity to explore these layers of belief and systems of belief down inside. But if we can stay willing to stay curious, even when it may be challenging, we unlock the doors to wisdom and insights and profound spiritual truths that we never thought were possible. And curiosity pushes us towards an expression of this deeper self. So in the curiosity phase, it's when we ask a lot of questions. We ask a whole lot of questions. No matter what you're observing, you start asking questions. And these questions can be asked about any area of your life you're considering, career, finances, health, or whatever it is. And the questions of curiosity sounds like this. What are my deepest feelings and beliefs about this part of my life? When is the last time I learned something new about myself or the world at large about this aspect of being on the planet? Can I identify things that I was just never taught about the subject at hand? How long has it been this way? Why do I contribute to making everything this way? How do I contribute to that? Who else is influencing me? Is there a professional that can help me dismantle this or deepen my curiosity? One question always leads to another in that curiosity phase. So after I had gotten really aware of other people, my fear of other people and my judgment and my sense of independence and isolation, I had to start asking myself questions, big questions, and getting curious as to where did this all come from and what do I do about it? So when I was in that phase, I realized I had been taught to mistrust other people. I've been taught that. I was taught to see the world as black and white and right and wrong. Everything was divided. If people disappointed you, they're done. They're done. They're not safe. You just move away. Don't trust them again. Mistakes were really punishable by just cutting people off, right? And I was influenced by my family. I was influenced. They taught me to categorize as people that are good, believe like we believe, and people that don't are bad. That's what we were taught. And I knew I was doing the best I could, but I didn't believe other people were doing their best. And my curiosity kept leading me in circles of pain as I got curious about the relationships I had been in throughout my young adult life. I was searching for patterns, right? I was also deeply curious as to the spiritual remedies that I was hearing about because I tried everything on the human level to try to be a nicer and more loving person. And I wanted to stop the pain and disappointment in relationships. And all of the curiosity, which, by the way, has never stopped, led me to some big discoveries, the next part of that OCD dance. Because when you enter the discover phase, it's time to learn. This is the part where you find out some things that you just didn't know before now. Your curiosity phase may lead you to professionals or teachers who can help you get your hands on new ideas and concepts and practices. When you're really ready to do the work, you start reading books about the aspect that you want to change. You find support groups of people who are also wanting to work on that part of life. And discovery may lead you to new experiences and new people and new places. It drives you to try and try and try, trusting that things will get better, that you will find a better way to live. And you're probably going to discover that people who are living in greater joy and fulfillment are thinking differently than you are, believing things about how life works differently than you believe, than you've ever considered perhaps. And they're definitely doing things different than you were doing them. Discovery is awesome. And spiritually, the discovery part includes hearing more about your true identity, a soul, that part of yourself that is pure love, pure connection to source. We talked about that part of ourselves in Sacred Cup this morning, that part of yourself that's never been hurt, never been disappointed, never been abused, never been neglected, never been abandoned. That part of you is in there. It's that pure connection to source. That inner goodness draws you toward other goodness. And it attracts experiences, people, and circumstances that reflect your true self back to you. So my curiosity did all those things. I was curious enough to keep taking lots of classes and reading books. My shelves are full of books that led me to more discoveries and new perspectives about everything, really. And I was curious enough to try a lot of spiritual practices like radical forgiveness work and relationship history work and family dynamics therapy practices, so many more. So I want to share some of the things I discovered. I discovered that I was taught to fear instead of love. As a first response, I was taught to judge and punish, not to forgive and extend compassion. I was in competition with other people, not in cooperation. From a perspective of lack, there was never enough to go around, and so I withheld resources from others. I thought I didn't have enough time, enough energy, money, or whatever it took to be different than I was. But when I shifted to a clear understanding of spiritual abundance in the universe, I discovered that generosity is what opens the floodgates of all good things, including compassion and love, to flow toward me. I discovered the deep truth that unhealed inner wounds continue to emit toxicity into the world and draw toxicity from other people toward me. My unhealed wounds and the wounds present in others were just a circle of toxic energy flowing in all directions. And I could only change myself, so I did. And once I healed my stuff and stopped sending toxicity out into the world, guess what? It stopped coming towards me too. And that's just a tad bit of the vast discoveries I've made in this area of relationships over the past, 23 years of doing this OCD dance over and over again. Observation, curiosity, discovery. It is a dance or a cycle. I'll tell you that I never stopped doing it on this spiritual path. I'm always curious. And I've done this OCD cycle, this dance, in every aspect of my existence. I've worked on my family and my home and my religious wounds and my finances, my career, my home life, my friends, my health, all of it. I've gotten incredibly curious because this stuff works. Why? Why, Laine? Why do you do it? Maybe it's part of my personality. I just am on that path. I want to be better. But I don't know, except that I do the work because my life has continued to get sweeter and better the more I do this cycle. I remember I teach that life is like a spiral staircase, and you're going around and you're encountering, every time you go around, you encounter similar relationships, experiences, stuff, And I want to go up the spiral staircase. I don't want to be in a rut going round and round and round in the same stuff over and over. I like to have new and better experiences. And it's when I face the same problems again and again, because we're going to face them, right? We're humans. So today I focused my talk about this on the healing of relationships with humanity, partners, friends, coworkers, family members. And I focused on that because I'm inviting you to do this OCD dance on the subject with me during this summer of love. Love is the positive, dynamic, intentional energy. The opposite of fear energy, which is also dynamic and intentional. But love is intentional energy of positivity. And this dynamic, intentional energy of either love or fear is what we run through everything we do. But it's most evident in relationships. And every other aspect of your life is built on relationships with other human beings. This love energy is blocked by fears of all kinds. And we're going to spend the summer observing, getting curious, and discovering ways that we as individuals and we as a community can remove blocks of love. Let's do this, and let's change the quality of our lives. Join me. Get curious, observe, get curious, and discover. Learn, experience, experiment, reveal your truest nature, discover that God within. Make it a point every day to spend a few minutes observing how you are living, to see if there's something new to get curious about. And remember the grandness part? I told you I'd get back to it. Good to great to grand. You move from great to grand when your soul takes over and you are a source of light in the world. Reveal your inner grandness that's always waiting deep inside you to be unleashed. You are grand always, and you always will be grand deep inside yourself. So we don't have to become something new. That's important. We don't have to become something new. We only have to reveal and uncover the truth of who we really are as God beings. And we are here to support each other in doing that together. Will you pray with me? Here is what I know. What I know is life is a spiritual journey, and that we keep encountering human stuff that is there to reveal to us what our beliefs are, what our thoughts are. And I know that for each one listening to this morning, there is a new awareness. There's a new sense of willingness to observe and get curious and discover something new and better and sweeter and grander about life. And there is nothing that stands in the way from that happening. And so it is.